Hey, welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow toasted strudels. This is your host with the most, A.K.A, also known as Nelson. And before I get into this video's topic of discussion, again, let me give my quick disclaimer real quick for my newcomers and my old comers. First and foremost, please stay hydrated. This is water, just so y'all know. Now, second bit is typically speaking, I try to get into the gist of my thought process in the first 5 minutes I possibly can. After 5 minutes, that's typically when I just kind of like go off on a rant or to expand more on my thought process. But with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the head. Let's get into the meat of this discussion. And something about this kind of came out of random a little bit, but it's something I have been, to an extent, been wanting to discuss about. And as an example for what I wanted to talk about, I'm going to use Dr. Jordan Peterson. Now, again, I brought him up in one of my past videos. And the reason why I'm going to use him again is because I was just re-listening to a particular interview that he had a few years ago. I want to say about 3 years ago. And I'm going to put it in a description box. Either I'm going to put it in the description box below or in the comment section down below, because I definitely would love you guys to go check it out. And you don't necessarily have to listen to the whole interview necessarily if you don't want to, but I would encourage you guys to at least listen to the first 30 minutes. The reason being is because something about Dr. Jordan Peterson, put some respect on his name, that I truly enjoy about him is not just how he carries himself as a man, first and foremost, but also how he articulates his thoughts process, how he, chooses to answer the question, or even so expand as to why maybe the question in itself that you're asking could be maybe difficult to really give you the appropriate answer that you might be seeking out of him. And something when I was re-listening to this particular interview is intriguing to me, that something I didn't catch on the first time I listened to the interview, but because I've listened to it, I want to say this is my third time. I want to say I've listened to the interview, but listening back at this point in time, it sparked something very interesting that I've been meaning to cover, and I said, let me take this opportunity to do so. And one in particular why I want to discuss y'all is this: the difference, or to be more specific in asking the question, how many people really know the difference between conviction and arrogance / stubbornness? Because you can interchange those two definitions or two terms if you want to, but they closely are related to each other, while you can interchange if you want to. And the reason why I'm asking that question, y'all, is because if you listen to, not just even in that particular interview, but if you listen to a lot of his interviews a few years back, and probably they still happen here now that he's came back after, dealing with some personal health issues. But if you listen back to a lot of his interviews a few years ago, what's intriguing about the way the interviewer would approach him, or let's say if he was in a kind of like a certain environment when it came to public discourse. What's so intriguing to me is that a lot of people that engage him in a sense that, he works out the premise of he's very arrogant about his statements, or he might be very arrogant about his stance on this particular subject, right? And to me, that first and foremost, to me, that's being very disrespectful, because that shows me you're not really listening to what he has to say. You hear what he's saying, but you're not really taking heed of what is he saying. And to me, again, that's being not just disrespectful, that's being very disingenuous. And to me, that's taking away such an important factor of having that kind of discussion or having that kind of discourse, and especially if you're going to publicize it for people to see and listen for themselves. And this is the thing that, again, let me make something very clear, y'all. You don't have to agree with Dr. Jordan Peterson on everything in order to have some reference for this man. You can by all means have a lot of disagreement with his stances, But the important part is to understand is, again, understand the difference between, and this is not specifically him. Again, I'm just using as a quick example to say this, is take the time out of your day to try to understand. Again, it's just, I'm being serious, y'all. This is a challenge I want to post for you guys to do. And again, just do this for yourself. You don't have to do it for me. Do it for yourself. Just sit back down. I would at least say, take 15 minutes out your day if you can. And just ask yourself this question. And work at it. I'll be serious. Do you understand the difference between having conviction within your actions and your words versus you being stubborn and or arrogant about your stances, your thought process, your principles, your beliefs, and what have you? And the reason why I want to post that to y'all is that too many times, in my personal opinion, y'all, this is just me, but I feel like too many times as we're growing up in, generation after generation, we, typically speaking, there are certain, let's say, certain concepts or certain values, certain life lessons that our parents are encouraged to pass along to their children. But there are some that I want to say, maybe more so, if not, are ones that ultimately we as the children have to just grow up and learn for ourselves. For example, again, like I asked about, do you truly understand the difference between these two concepts or these two terms? Because here's the thing, y'all. Having conviction and being stubborn, they're not the same thing. They don't have the same definition. And give me a minute. Looking for my water, y'all. Give me a minute. And the reason being why I'm bringing it up, because as far as I'm personally concerned, there's a huge difference, especially in a public discourse, to make an example of how do you convey true conviction in people's words and their actions versus someone who just wants to be stubborn or can, in their mind, can't help but be stubborn or arrogant that, oh, I'm always going to be in the right and you'll always be in the wrong. And something I've said several times on this channel, y'all, and outside of this channel to many people before, is that at the end of the day, and this is something I always say to myself first and foremost, is, and I hope y'all can take this, and again, please take what I say with a grain of salt, but I hope most of y'all will understand what I mean when I say this. That at the end of the day, surely I'm not always going to be in the wrong, but surely I'm not always going to be right. And the thing is this, y'all, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to Brittany Simon. The reason why I'm gonna shout her out is because, and again, I do have to look out for that particular podcast. I want to say it was in one of her previous podcasts that she has done before. And then please check it out. I think y'all will definitely enjoy it. Anyhow, that she brought up a very interesting notion that if you're going to be consistent with your views, if you're going to be consistent with the principles that you uphold in your life, your actions have to reflect that, despite the fact that, let's say, somewhere in your previous experiences back in the day, what may contradict your actions or your stances back then. But it's like you have to be consistent about how do you value these things. Like, perfect example, I'm just using myself for this. Like coconut. Perfect example I'm using. Like when I was younger, y'all, I used to say that I could not stand coconut. More so coconut shavings, to be more specific. Not like coconut milk or juice, but it was the shavings that just didn't sit right with me. But ironically, y'all, many years later, you know what I found out? That one of my absolute favorite Girl Scout cookies had coconut shaving. And y'all know, you know the one I'm talking about. But had coconut shavings on it. And many years later, my dumb ass finally I literally was looking at the box because I was reading it, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder how much sugar was it. And it finally dawned on me when I was reading, where they show the recipe, not the recipe, y'all, the ingredients for the food and what have you, that had coconut shavings. I was like, well, shit. I I guess I can't say I hate coconut anymore. I can't say that. Because to this day, do I still eat those cookies? Yes, I motherfucking do. So it's like I have to be consistent about myself. So from that day forward, y'all, when I tell people that I don't like coconut or I don't like coconut shavings, what I say nowadays, or I don't use the word hate coconut shavings. I don't say that no more because I wouldn't be consistent about my actions. What I say now is I don't like coconut shavings on certain recipes or certain meals or certain foods or desserts, to be more consistent about how I carry myself and be true to myself. And again, that's why I want to bring this back to what I said earlier, why I want to pose this question to y'all, is again, do you truly understand the difference between, again, being arrogant and being having conviction in your actions? Do you have confidence in your actions? Do you understand that, hey, you have two good knees to stand on a particular stance that you have in life? Let's say, for example, in the political sphere, you may not be someone who's of the left, you may not be someone of the right, but you have a firm understanding of where you place yourself within the realm of politics, or better yet, outside of politics. Perfect example I'm going to use. Like, say, you could be someone who is, generally speaking, you might align more so with being a Democrat versus a Republican, but there are certain actions that are even certain life lessons that you came up about life that you can identify as being very conservative. Perfect example I'm just going to use real quick for y'all is this. Like, for example, you may be, I'm trying to think what's a good one I can use real quick off the top of my head. Like, say, for example, if you're someone who is for freedom of speech, right? If you're someone for freedom of speech, then the thing is this. That is a great privilege for you to utilize in your daily life. The thing is, if you're going to abuse it, should you suffer the proper ramifications for your actions? Like, for example, if we say that free speech should not equate hate speech, I think that you have to be reasonable about how do you decipher those two things. Because again, it's about being objective and subjective. Because again, my thing is this, y'all. If I'm a big proponent of free speech, I simply say this. Hey, say whatever you want to say, but you have to, at the same time though, if you are someone who is an advocate for free speech, right, you have to acknowledge that if I can say anything and everything that comes out this mouth, I must be willing to prepare myself to say, okay, I'm going to suffer the consequences of my actions that come from my mouth, good and bad. If I don't keep that kind of consistency, that kind of conviction in my life, then again, how strong are my legs to stand on that stance? Really? Because if I make every kind of, for example, again, going back to free speech and hate speech, if you're willing to make any kind of excuse to get out of someone, like, let me think, do I want to use this? Okay, and I'm not going to try to toss Fox under the bus, but let's all be honest. If you watch Fox news stations, not all of them, because there are some good, as far as I'm concerned, but there are some that are very lackluster, but they're doing their jobs, and I won't fault them for them. But it's like this. If you listen to some of these news networks for Fox, the thing is this. They are purposely making you look dumb. For their listeners, y'all are purposely be talked down as if you cannot comprehend common sense, as far as I'm personally concerned. But the thing is this. If you can justify, oh, this particular instance of saying, oh, this should be looked at as an isolated incident, but then you're not consistent of your action or your willingness to be a advocate for excuses if it's in this particular instance that doesn't fit what you subscribe to. To me, again, that's being hypocritical. And there's nothing wrong to be hypocritical, but it's like, can you truly admit you're being hypocritical and correct yourself? Or even, let's say, try to give a proper reason why you're being hypocritical in this moment. And again, I'm willing to listen. But if you hit me with bullshit, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to care to engage with you. I'm really not. But anyhow, y'all, to close my thoughts on this real quick, and I promise y'all it's gonna be quick. Last thing I'm just gonna say on this point, and again, I looked down at the floor, thought my water was there. It's still right there on the counter. Let me say. Final thing I'm just gonna say, y'all, is this: is overall, if you can find yourself in a good place in answering the question I posed again, do you understand the difference between having conviction and being stubborn? I truly believe that it will improve your life. Now, I'm gonna say this: it may not improve your life at the rate you want it to be, but I think overall it will still improve your life. Be an example unto others. And guess what? If they don't want to follow that example, that's up to them. Just be the best person that you can be. Have grace for yourself if you falter. And I think overall it's going to be all right. But with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you enjoyed the video so far, like. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. Again, share your thoughts and your opinions down in the description, in the comment section down below. Again, subscribe if you don't want to subscribe. Cool. Post notifications. No post notifications. Fine by me. But I catch y'all in the next video. Peace, and I love y'all.